Are you looking for the most delicious chocolate raspberry cheesecake that is just out of this world? Well, you came to the right place because this cheesecake is just perfect for Valentine's Day, date night, or if you're just craving some chocolate. Hi, my name is Alyena and welcome to my kitchen. To start our cheesecake, we are going to do our Oreo crust. And here I have a big bowl of Oreos. We have 36 Oreos here. Try not to eat all of them because I know it's very tempting to. And I am just going to put these in my food processor. And here I have my butter. It's so cold out here, it was no longer melted. So now I'm just going to blend together my Oreos. You can always do this by hand, but using a food processor will save you a lot of time. Now that my cookies are completely ground up, we can add in our melted butter. And I have half a cup of melted butter going in. And now I'm just going to pulse this in with the butter until it's fully combined. Okay, and here we have our crust. Now we can just pour this into our pan. And I do actually recommend using a springform pan for this recipe because I just used a normal pan and it really did stick and it did hinder the beauty of my cheesecake. So I recommend using a springform, and that's what I'm going to do next time. Now we can pour in our Oreo crust, and I'm not pressing my crust up the sides. I'm just doing it on the bottom because I do want to see the layers of my cheesecake. And now that it is completely smoothed out and even, I can pop this in my oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes so it just gets a little bit cooked. Also, if I sound a little bit funny today, it is because I got my wisdom teeth out last week and it's still a little swollen. I'm a little painful, I'm not gonna lie, but we're baking anyways. So now we're going to start our cream cheese and our cheesecake. And here we have the cream cheese, and we have 1.5 pounds of cream cheese, or 3 blocks. And we are just going to cream this together for about 1 to 2 minutes. And this is also at room temperature. You do not want this to be cold. Okay, now that I've whipped my cream cheese and I got a little bit in my hair naturally, I'm going to just scrape down the sides of my bowl, and then we can add in our sugar. And for my sugar, I have 1 cup of granulated sugar along with a 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. There we go. Along with 2.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. And I'm actually going to sift my cocoa powder in because I find cocoa powder is notoriously clumpy and we don't want that in our cheesecake. And now we can blend this all together until everything is really nicely combined. Now that our sugars are totally combined, we can start adding in our eggs. And we do want to use room temperature eggs, and we're going to add 1 at a time and beat after every egg. So I have 4 whole eggs that are going in, along with 2 egg yolks. Now that we've added in all of our eggs, we can add in our vanilla extract, and I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, along with a 3/4 cup, I can't speak today, my mouth's a little swollen, a 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Now we're just going to give this a quick mix together. You don't want to overbeat your batter at this point, so just until it's combined. And you may be asking yourself, where is the chocolate in our cheesecake? We are going to make that now. We can set this off to the side and we can start melting down our chocolate. Here I have a double broiler. So what that means is I have my pot filled with water and I'm putting my chocolate on top of it, but you do not want your bowl to touch your water. You are melting this through the steam. So for my chocolate, I have 2 cups of chopped up semi-sweet chocolate, and I recommend using chocolate bars over chocolate chips because chocolate chips have stabilizers in them, so that hinders that silky smooth cheesecake that we want. Okay, now that our chocolate is about completely melted, we can add in our espresso powder, and I have 2 teaspoons of espresso powder going into my chocolate, and we can just give this a stir. And I'm going to pour this into my cream cheese mixture. Now that my chocolate is totally mixed in, we can pour it into our cooled crust. You do want to make sure that our crust is completely cooled. You don't want it to be hot. And we're only going to pour in half of our cheesecake mixture. And now I'm going to sprinkle my raspberries evenly all over my cheesecake. And now we're going to pour the rest of our batter on top of the raspberries until they don't show. And I do have a little extra batter because my pan is the same size of the springform, but it's not as tall. So I'm making a second mini cheesecake. But if you were using a springform, then it should all fit just in one pan. And now I have a saucepan that I filled up with some water. And I'm going to place my cheesecake into it. And you do want the water to go about 1 inch up the side of your cheesecake pan. So now I have my water bath and I changed my oven temperature from 350 degrees to 325 degrees. And I'm going to bake my cheesecake for 1 hour and 10 minutes. And then what I like to do is turn off my heat and open the oven door just a crack and leave my cheesecake in for another 30 minutes, because if you just pull your cheesecake out and it hits the cold air all at once, then it will crack very easily. So I like to do this to try to help it from not cracking on me. And then after that 30 minutes, you can bring it out, let it cool completely, and then you do want to refrigerate this cheesecake for a minimum of 6 hours, or you can do it overnight, which I'm actually doing to save myself some time as it's already getting dark outside. So now we can go and pop our cheesecake in the oven very carefully. And I'm back. It's a new day and my cheesecake is really nice and cooled now, which is what we wanted. And we can start on our chocolate ganache. So the first thing we're going to do for that is bring our pot and put it on an element. And we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of heavy cream. And we are going to want this to be fairly hot. We want it to get to a rolling boil before we add it to our chocolate, because this is what melts our chocolate, is this warm cream. Okay. And for my chocolate, I have 1 1/3 cups of chocolate, and you do want to chop it up pretty fine. And to that you can add in your butter, and I have a 1/4 cup of butter going in. And now I can just set this aside until my cream is warm. Okay, now that my cream is at a rolling boil, I'm going to pour it over my chocolate. And now I'm just going to let this sit for 1 minute before I start whisking it. So we can count for this one. Okay, and now I'm just going to start whisking it until the chocolate is fully melted and it comes together. Okay, and now I've flipped my cheesecake out. Put my pan down there, and I'm just going to remove my parchment paper. Ooh. I love an Oreo crust. That just looks amazing. And now I'm just going to flip it right back over, very gently. And voila! I will say a few pieces on the side did come off while I was trying to get it out of its pan. So we're just going to put those right back on there. But we're covering all of this in chocolate, so no one's going to see any of this, which I love. And also, if a few pieces fall off, you can eat them. And now I'm just pouring my ganache on, and I'm using a spoon to just help it. And I like to have a little pour down the sides, cover all those not so pretty spots. Okay, I poured the ganache on it. I also smoothed out the sides because I didn't like how the drips were uneven. And I smoothed out the top so everything's really nice and even now. And you do want your ganache to set fully, so you do want to let it cool for 1 hour until it's completely set, or I'm going to pop it in my fridge for 30 minutes and then check on it. And here we have our cheesecake. Our ganache is set, and I'm going to top it with some fresh raspberries. And I actually created a few little chocolate hearts off to the side because it is Valentine's Day, so we do want a few hearts in there, right? We're spreading the love. Wow, it's so delicious, it's so creamy, and also it's not overpowering. It's the perfect level of chocolate, and you also get that hint of raspberry in there that is just delicious. So please let me know if you try this cheesecake and what you think in the comments down below. Also, if you would like to see more homemade delicious cheesecakes and dessert recipes, there will be a playlist right here or over here. Thank you so much for watching, and a happy Valentine's Day. And don't forget to check back in next Sunday because we are making one of my favorite cocktails, an espresso martini.